What we're going to do next is we're going to listen to Kira's song, I Promise. And you've heard this a couple of years ago. We did the same thing. This Sweetheart Banquet is a little different because we're putting together pieces of things that we've done in prior years. And this is something we did 2 years ago. But I wanted to do it again because it kind of goes with the theme of what Pastor Chuck will be talking to us about in just a few minutes. So all you have to do is pull out your sheet that says I Promise, and it starts on the page that says I Promise at the top. And you don't have to sing it or anything, you can just follow along. We have some actors up here in the front that are going to act, and then
I don't know about actors, but you got some characters. No comments from the peanut gallery, please.
At the very end, the last little paragraph there, we are all going to stand up and sing. So at the very end, if you will sing that, that'd be great.
Not blocking it.
You are an answer to my plea. Straight from God you came to me, like an angel in disguise. You were right before my eyes. Looking around I did not see. Prayed to God incessantly, tried to find someone myself. Then I saw you and I promised to be always faithful, promised to be forever grateful for the way you've been loving me. And I promised to continue trying to give you all the best that I am, through the years and through the seasons, and wherever God may lead us, I will love you to the end. I promise. Kids, strollers, car seats, and the rest. All we ever want is rest, and romance becomes a distant memory, gone forever. Bills, jobs and chores around the house, everything has changed, and now it takes a conscious effort to remember and again to promise to be always faithful, promise to be forever grateful for the way you've been loving me, and to promise to continue trying to give you all the best that I am, through the years and through the seasons, and wherever God may lead us, I will love you to the end. I promise. Cold and so empty in the house. All the kids are gone and now no more running, no more playing, no more noise, there's no more sound. Broke my heart to see them go. All these years I watched them grow. Now it's you and I alone again, and through my tears I promise to be always faithful, promise to be forever grateful for the way you've been loving me. And I promise to continue trying to give you all the best that I am, through the years and through the seasons, and wherever God may lead us, I will love you to the end. I promise. As you look into my eyes with love that never ceases, feels like I'm walking down the aisle. Hand in hand we stop and smile, as 1,000 grandkids run to us with hugs and kisses. I promise to be always faithful, promise to be forever grateful for the way you've been loving me. And I promise to continue trying to give you all the best that I am, through the years and through the seasons, and wherever God may lead us, I will love you to the end. I promise to be always faithful, promise to be forever grateful for the way you've been loving me. And I promise to continue trying to give you all the best that I am, through the years and through the seasons, and wherever God may lead us, I will love you to the end. I promise.
Thank you, everyone. Let's give our
Before we start, a couple things. You know, a lot of times when we get together, we do fun and all that stuff, and sometimes you never realize that a couple things really begin to happen at some of these things down through the years that we've been doing this. Actually, Dale and Eleanor, who is with us here tonight, Dale is the guy that I told you that actually was one of the first guys that actually got saved when I first started preaching at Taylor's Grove. He was a guy that actually was the one that had the marijuana. He was one of the, and knew everybody in town in Somerville. And so the night that he came to the revival and got saved, going back home, he pitched every bit of the marijuana and everything that he had in his pocket into the creek. Everybody thought he was crazy and nuts, you know. But it wasn't long after that that all of the guys that were, and people in Somerville that actually were buying from Dale, actually he began to start leading them to the Lord.
All right.
Wow.
And we ended up,
That's awesome.
we ended up going from 18 people up to over 70-some people within a matter of about 3 months. And it was just a long thing. And so Dale was part of us. Eleanor we had known for a long, long time, since we had grown up together. She went to the church. We were doing a sweetheart banquet, and that was their first date. 29 years ago.
27 years ago last night.
27 years ago last night, a blind date. They had never met each other. We introduced each other at the sweetheart banquet. I think they won it that year. They didn't know anything about either of them, you know. That was, you know, then and stuff. Chet and Carol's daughter, Cheryl, actually, I think her first date that she ever went on was a sweetheart banquet at Taylor's Grove also. And it was a few years later that they ended up getting married. And so a lot of things happen. You build memories, you know, down through the years and stuff. And I say all of that because the song reminded me of something, because Kira was coming to sing and things got all mismatched and everything, and she showed up on a Saturday, and I happened to be doing a wedding that night. And in the wedding, they had no music. They only had like, 6 to 8 people that even showed up for the wedding and everything. And she was so gracious. She says, well, hey, I've got a song that I can do. And that was the first time that I heard that song, was when I was doing the wedding and she sang it. And what I'm trying to say is that I've tried to tell y'all that nothing in your life, ladies and gentlemen, is by coincidence. It is God appointed. And a lot of times if we don't look and we don't see it, we miss it. And some of the things that we've missed in our life that we wish we could have it back, but some of the things that we've caught and we continue to do. And so let's say thanks y'all for coming. The format this time is a little bit different. I convinced Diana, let's change it a little bit, if y'all don't mind, because I just want to share with you, you know, some things. Because when you begin to look around, we're all coming from a very diverse group of people. We've grown up in many different environments. We're from, you know, a younger age. Well, it's not too many of us that are young. But this is a youth group right now, so, you know, and one of the things that you begin to look and you see is that even in your life, sometimes you don't realize it, that the person that you're with is the one that God's picked out for you. And somehow along the path, God brought you together with whatever those circumstances, you know, may have been. Some of you maybe haven't been married for very long. Some, you're up there along with us, hitting right around 50 and getting closer to all of these things. And so, if you could for just a moment, let's go back to when you first met each other. In that time frame, because I remember, you know, I've shared this story many times. I remember mine. You know, I grew up in church. It was all of us guys would always hang around together, and you're always looking, you know, for, okay, who's the next girl coming in the church, and what she looked like and everything. And I remember, you know, standing there that day with a bunch of guys, and one of the guys, well, Diana was actually seeing one of the guys, and I didn't know it, and I just basically told him, I said, okay, guys, nobody, she is mine. Y'all just need to go find you someone else. And so, you know, we met there in church. She was 12, I was 14.
Oh, God.
And we really did. We grew up together. And our relationship and the feelings that we had, they really did begin to grow. So many different characteristics. If you went with me, you got to sing with us in a group. If you broke up with me, you're out. And the next one comes in, you've been replaced and stuff. And so it was, you know, as kids and stuff, you begin to see those things. But then all of a sudden, the love that she and I had for each other really was growing and growing and growing to the point where I ended up going into the service. And I came back, and it was to the point where, you know, we really didn't want to be away from each other. And so we asked her mom and her dad, and they really didn't want us to get married. We had been telling them all along, even before, that we were going to run away. We found one place in the States that we could run away and get married to. We lied to them, and you know, preachers don't always tell the truth. Okay? But you have to discern what it is. But we really felt that, you know, that we were really truly in love. And so sometimes when you look at really what in love means, it's two words that really are very, very, you know, hard to explain, because as I was going to be stationed 550 miles away from where we were at, and I was getting ready to leave, and we finally convinced her dad to let us get married. And we planned that wedding. We made the announcement on Sunday night, and we got married on Friday night. I was 18, she was 16 and a junior in high school. And so some people really, like our parents, really thought that this was just a phase we were going through. They kept trying to tell us it's never going to last. I'm from the wrong side of the tracks. I didn't have any money. You know, they knew our parents and stuff, and they just thought that it's just not the right thing. And they just kept trying to tell us, you know, how to do that. So we began that journey as two kids embarking on a lifetime together. We grew up quick, because all of a sudden you're 18 and 16, and there's a lot of adult decisions that had to be made. I made a promise to her dad that I would make her finish school. I don't know how you all know and how you would feel if your husband is your guardian. And it's like, I don't want to go to school today. Yes, you have to go. And to have to sign all of the papers and everything that they bring for the parent to sign with the guardian. And it was, the relationship was, it was just really different than really what we would ever imagine, that it would be. And so sometimes we even talk, and say, what would have happened if we waited? Would we still have gotten married? And we sometimes, we play the what if games. And sometimes you're not sure. What if you had waited? Would she gone off and gone, to college on somewhere else? She found someone different and stuff. But we did. I wouldn't recommend that you let an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old get married, okay? Because I would tell you it's a struggle. It's really difficult, and especially in this day and age, it becomes more, of a stress and things. But God has told us that He says that all things work together for the good, for those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. And so this coming year will be 47 years, and it's worked out. And it's, it's worked out for the good. And so even tonight, in your life and in your journey, look out for the good. So many times we look out for the negative stuff, and we get so bogged down in all the negativity and stuff that we tend to miss the good thing that was right in front of us sometimes. It gets buried underneath everything. And sometimes we need to allow it to bubble up and overshadow all of the other things that are there. When we were talking in the song, it's kind of as you watch the news and everything, and all of the stuff that's going on, where life today is a throwaway. And God never intended life to be a throwaway. The Bible says that even when we were in the womb, He knew us. He created us. And even the children that other people don't want, God had a plan for them that people circumvented. And sometimes we forget that people are in that spot where they're able to have children. And we need to help them as we have migrated from that spot on, that it is a wonderful time. And children are a blessing, not a curse. Yes, you have to alter your lifestyle, and there's certain things that all of a sudden you're no longer allowed to do. And there's so many times that you've got to learn how to function on 3 hours of sleep. 1 hour here and 1 hour here and 1 hour here. And understanding that children are blessings that God has given to each and every one of us. But with those children, we need to let them know that there comes a great responsibility. And sometimes we forget that because it's an awesome, I believe, an awesome responsibility that we have with our children. I didn't get to go into when my first two children were born. And with Diane and I, we lost our first child, Robin, at 8 months. She was stillborn. And they had told us after that we would not have children. It was not going to happen. But God knew something that the doctors don't know. I didn't get to be there when the first two, my first two sons were born. There was not a period of time in which the father could go into the room as Diane was having C-sections. And so I actually got to be there when Charlie was born. And I got to experience that part of watching that baby cry for the first time. To be able to hold that child. And it's just is a flood of emotions and feelings that just you can't explain how it makes you feel in that way. And so sometimes we need to understand that as God has given us that, we're responsible for what's being taught to those children, because it's our job as parents to instill in them the belief of God, of Jesus Christ, and of the Holy Spirit. And it doesn't just stop there. We're to teach the children humility. We need to teach our children respect for each other. Because what happens is, if we don't, society does. And I'm sorry, but if you look at the kids today, society is teaching them stuff. And if you're watching, they've lost all respect for each other. Each other do not respect each other's feelings, emotions, concerns. It doesn't matter. What matters is just what I feel, what I want. And even though you may not have, your children may be all grown, sometimes you need to step in with your grandchildren. Because there are sometimes that even your children are not teaching them right. And the moments that you're spending, that you get to share into the life of those grandchildren, you got to teach them. Take that moment and take that time and just share with them the respect of other people and things that they need to go. And then during this period of time, life, it throws you a lot of curveballs. Life is a roller coaster. There's those ups and downs and things. There's going to be those highs. There's going to be those lows. And for some of you that have been married, you've experienced them. It's like, which ride are we riding today? Which coaster, which turn? And is it a big steep hill, or are we still on the little kiddie ride, that maybe only has a few bumps and things? But as you're going through these periods of your life, you need to learn how to depend on each other. Because that's why God brought you together, as you two become one, and sharing those times together, not separately. It's a time to talk to each other and do these things. If you remember growing up with the kids, all the birthdays. You remember the first birthday of your firstborn child, and how it was feeding them cake and just sitting there laughing, and it had to be chocolate.
Chocolate.
Because you just wanted to make sure that there was a mess, and all of the things that were there and all the things that were happening, going to all of the Little League games, the graduations, sometimes when your kids are getting a job promotion, when life is good. My son, we went out with him Tuesday night, him and his wife Libby, and my son, who a lot of times life was going one way and all of a sudden it was going another. He was telling with me he's been moved from in charge of the South Korean Air Force, all of their stuff that they're getting from the Air Force. Now he's being in charge of Greece, and so he says it's a promotion, but I really didn't want it. And I said, well, take it, man, because we're coming to Greece with you when you go. Because we've always wanted to take the Mediterranean cruise, and we'll go that way. But then, that's the highs. But then there's the lows. The times when you mourn together. The times when financial problems happen. The times when there's, the job losses and the death of your loved ones. They're difficult to get through, but they're easier to get through when you've got somebody there with you.
Exactly.
That's going through that during that period. Because so many times what happens, we want to bottle up and we want to withdraw. And that's really the time that God wants you to join together in those times. Because the Bible tells us in the book of Ecclesiastes, written by Solomon, he said it is better when two people are joined together than they succeed as the one. As I've shared, our marriage, we've known tragedy. We lost our firstborn. We've lost 3 of our parents. The only one that we have living, is my mom, and she's getting older. Diana just lost her brother a couple of years ago. And we're watching as our siblings get older and older the things. Our daughter Charlie, they found out on her 15th birthday that she had a cyst in the brain. She had that removed, and then a year later they had to go back in and remove again. They actually took out the section of the brain in removing of the cyst that has her short-term memory. So getting her through from her sophomore to her senior year and then through 2 years of college, it was being there with her the whole time. Going to teachers' conferences, not when they were called, we're talking about every day. Having the graciousness of employers and letting us take the time off and doing those things. And then just a couple of months ago, we get the call from my son, who actually got a text from his girlfriend right now, that my son had a heart attack, the widowmaker, and not knowing if he's going to live, and realizing that he had moved from Ohio to Nevada, and we didn't want him to go, but show how God works. He was within 15 minutes of a heart hospital that had a trauma unit that got him right in within an hour. And he's doing fine. He's had 2 open heart surgeries, 3 stents in one artery, 2 stents in the other. His cholesterol level is spectacular. He's healthy. He's doing great. And he's even talked a little bit about church, and I still got to find a church for him to get into. I get to go see him in a couple of weeks, and my brother's going with me. And if he doesn't know it, he's got 5 days if he's going to be talking, and he's in the car with us, and he's going to be sitting at Red's spring training with us. It's more than Red's game. It's let's talk about Jesus, and let's talk about life, and let's talk about commitments, that are there. But how am I doing? That's good. But sometimes you need to understand that when your marriage is on a high, may I say this to you? Be careful. Because when the marriage is on a high, Satan is going to attack you very much. And is going to try to destroy you in many, many ways. So we come to the point of the empty nesters. This is the life when we really begin to sit back and look at our life when all the kids are gone. And now all of a sudden it's like you look at each other and you're wondering, who are you? Where have you been the last 18 to 20 years since the kids were growing up, and you're going one way and going the other way? But sometimes we look at it and the kids don't come around anymore. They're not always coming to us and asking for advice. And some of the things that they do, you look at it and you think, I have no clue why you did that, because that is not what I taught you. I thought you would have made a better decision than this, but you got to understand that sometimes kids, they're going to be independent as they begin to live by themselves. And so I hear a lot of people begin to start criticizing themselves and saying, why was I such a bad parent? You're not a bad parent. It's not on you unless you allow the child to raise itself, himself or herself. Then yes, that's a bad parent. But if you raised them and you gave them advice, they decided and they made the choices. Okay? And so now we come to the point of which most of you are in. And this is the point when kids are gone. Now you're at a point in time in your life and you're sitting here and you're trying to decide, what do I do? Where am I at? And may I say to you that this really is a time in your life to where you really need to be putting more focus on God and saying, okay, God, what is it that you're asking me to do for you? Because I need to start focusing for this time and letting people to understand what's going on. And not really focusing on building my kingdom, but actually building his kingdom. The slogan here is building the kingdom one life at a time. And everywhere you go, you're going to meet somebody that's hurting. And all they're looking for is somebody to smile or just say hi to them. And let me say this to you. When you do, they will start unloading. They'll tell you every problem in their life. And you'll sit there with thinking, okay, and my life is bad. So as we come to this point in life, the children are grown. Now they begin to give you grandchildren. Some of the greatest relationships are built between a grandparent and a grandchild. We've got 9. But when you begin to look, if you ever watch Eli, he has got this attachment to his grandmother. It is like when she's there, he just brightens up. He gets attached. She was sitting in church last Sunday, I believe it was, and she was sitting on the end. RJ was here and Eli was there, and she looks over and Eli's just got this sad face look. Like, I want to sit by Memo. And so Diana had to get up and move to sit between the two. And then the smile just comes and you can just see the face begin to glow. And sometimes it isn't that they're the favorite grandchild. It's just there's a bond there that sometimes that they just tug at your heartstrings. And it's just like, don't do this to me. And it's like, wow, what do I do? But I can say to you this thing, that sometimes as our bodies begin to break down and we're not as strong as we used to be, I hope we get wiser and understand that I don't have to do everything. I just have to spend some time. Because most of the time, that's all they're asking for. Because that is the one commodity that you'll never get back. You can always, if you run out of food, you can always buy some more. But you can't go out and buy any more time. And that's why God says that we should cherish those times together. And so when you wake up, and for those of you that are married, and when you look at the person that's right there and you begin to see them, why don't you just thank God for, what he gave you? Because he brought you together for a reason. And that is to share these moments and times together as we all grow older, okay? So, as we get older, a lot of times we get these sad faces, wishing that we could have everything back. You can't get it. It ain't there. So all I'm saying to you is this, is God says that to be absent in the body is to be present with the Lord. And so my presence with you is done.